How's it going, Noita community? Today's video is basically, I don't make videos on spells specifically unless I feel like there's some knowledge that is, maybe not the most obvious and something that could help people get to like a god run in Noita. So I'm gonna talk about a series of spells, a group of spells that were added to the game with the Epilogue 2 update. It's 7 spells. Each one of them is limited in its charges, and it varies from 30 to 20. But these spells right here are very easy to undervalue, and I undervalue it probably quite a bit. Many of my runs, I walk past them, and usually there'll be somebody in the chat when I'm doing it on live stream, and they'll be like, wait, you left that behind, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. And so I'm going to put this information out there because it could help your run too. The chat's always helping me to not forget just how OP these things can be. But also, by the end of this, I'm going to show you a combination that I've actually never used in one of my runs before, but it's probably broken. It probably, enough that maybe the devs would even patch it if one day they do return. We're talking about like almost like a free god run. But let's jump into it. So just know that these spells, these Iplicates, the Implicate, the Yipplicate, Tiplicate, Wellplicate, Peplicate, Heplicate, Quiplicate, I probably didn't pronounce them correctly. These are... they're not like something that you got to unlock, and they do vary in what tier they're considered, and that's a good thing. You wouldn't want all of these to be in the same tier because it means that they'd follow kind of like the same rules on where you would see them. Like in the Holy Mountain shops, the further you go down, like the higher tier spells you'll tend to see, and because these are kind of spread out, it means that throughout your run you have a chance to come across, maybe in the early game you're more likely to see some of these smaller, like the Ipplicate and Yipplicate. Honestly, I don't remember all their tiers, but later game, Heplicate and Quiplicate, all these are more often to be seen in the late game. But they all kind of follow the same rules and can be useful in the same way. I'm not going to go over every way to use these because most of them, honestly, I'm not that impressed with them, but I am going to cover the ones that I think are noteworthy and have actually, helped a couple of my runs in the past and probably are broken, actually, a couple of their mechanics. So let's jump into this. So the concept is basically whenever I tried them, the way that they come across the devs meant for us to use them is if you have something like this Yipplicate here, you can kind of see by the image, the pattern, that it's going to shoot out like, whatever projectile it's copying, it's going to shoot out 2 of them in that kind of bifurcated pattern. And so I'm going to do that here. You see that I have 30 charges of the Yipplicate and 3 charges of the black hole. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to jump over here. I was goofing around with it already, and I fire this off, right? So pretty much shot off like how you would expect, used a charge here and used a charge here. This is why a lot of people tend to overlook them and you don't do a lot more with it because that's pretty limited in your creativity. I don't know why you'd want to do that kind of stuff. But where it gets wild is that this wand has enough mana to cast everything on this. But if you were to put it on another wand, such as this one here that has a mana max of 350, it doesn't have enough mana to cast everything here. Because if you read it, it even tells you at the end, the copy still costs mana. Meaning, the 2 black holes it shot off, each black hole is going to cost mana. A black hole costs 180, so 2 of them will be 360 mana. Plus, the Yipplicate itself costs 40. So 360 plus 40, that's 400 mana. This wand just doesn't have enough to cast all of that. So whenever you do that, 29 charges here, 2 charges here, I'm using a wand that can't complete the payload, the whole group here, and I shoot it. It actually just looks like a regular black hole. And if you look at the charges, it only used a charge of the Yipplicate, not of the black hole. So when you start to realize this, it's like, okay, you can, instead of looking at these Yipplicate spells or whatever Ipplicate that you have, instead of looking at them like they're awkward formations and all that kind of stuff, you just start thinking of them as like charge extensions for whatever spell you have that has limited charges. This will act as a way to add more charges onto it. So for example, if I see that I have a black hole with 2 charges, I could be like, all right, I just came across this Peplicate, that means that I have 22 charges of black hole as long as I use it on a wand that can't complete the payload. So I can just go along. And yes, modifiers do still work here. So if you put a speed up onto this Plicate or whatever one you have, the black hole will still benefit from that speed up, and this one is still not using charges. This is where you can find a lot of value on a modifier that, you know, or a utility spell, I should say. I keep calling it a modifier because I use it like a modifier, but it is the type utility spell, which that's important, and I'll explain why in a moment. But it's very easy to overlook these because of that. I don't know if the devs designed it with this in mind, but because of that, it's actually very useful. It's almost like not as good as a Greek letter, because Greek letter makes the black holes infinite. But this will do as a placeholder. You know, whenever people talk to me about unlockable spells, well, these are not needing to be unlocked at all. But I think they always think that if they unlock the Greek letters, that they'll all of a sudden get them all the time in their runs, and then they'll have infinite black holes and all that stuff, when it's like, that's just not how it works. It's very rare you'll find a Greek letter, even if you've unlocked them. If you want the Greek letters, you go kill the alchemist. But these spells here, they actually show up from time to time. They're not that rare. And so this could allow you to put off your alchemist kill for later in your run when you feel more confident, where you can make a mistake and you don't instantly die. Because you're fighting the alchemist at like 200 health with only like 2 or 3 perks, it's a little scary. But if you've already, you know, got like 7 perks and you've got like 500 health, there's definitely a lot more room for you to make mistakes and it not ruin your run entirely. But we haven't even gotten to the OP stuff. All right, so hopefully you get the general concept here. Basically, the larger the duplicate spell, whatever you want to call these, let's call them duplicate spells. The larger the duplicate spell is, the higher the mana max can be and not be able to complete the payload. So for example, if I was to find this little Plicate, which is pretty much the same as the one I was just showing you a second ago, as the Plicate, mana cost and everything, just the formation, you know, looks different. But you would need to use mana maxes that are a little bit lower. But these higher ones up here, like the Plicate over here, you know, its mana drain is 130. And it's trying to copy, it says 6 copies. I don't remember if it does 6 properly. Some of these spells are a little bit weird. But you definitely know that 600 mana max is just not going to cut it. It's not going to be enough to cast that many black holes. So now when I cast it, I have 20 charges of the Plicate, 2 charges of the black hole. I shoot it. Yes, you do still see a little bit of like this weird formation shooting out, but it did not use a charge of the black hole, and it only used a charge of the Plicate. And yes, you can put the speed ups here and you still get the benefits there. Obviously that one may be a little awkward, but hey, if you're looking to black hole from one level to the other, you don't care sometimes about the way it awkwardly shoots off. It's still, you know, it's pretty easy to use. You can still get around wherever you need to go, no problem. This is probably the most common way to use these series of spells, and the problem is the math that you have to do there a little bit is intimidating. But I want to show you another spell that I'm sure you guys would be excited to hear about, that it does work on it. Circle of Vigor. Anything with charges, this will work. So Circle of Vigor costs 80 mana. So if I have this Plicate here costing 40 mana, plus this one being 80, so it's going to try to cast 2 of the Circle of Vigors, 2 of them. So double 80, 160, plus this being 40, that would be 200. This mana max is 350. So actually, if I cast this, I will lose a charge of my Circle of Vigor. So 30 charges of this, 2 charges of this, I cast it, I lost a charge. So this isn't good, because if we go to 0 charges, it will not shoot off any more Circle of Vigors. So what we're going to do here is, if you actually had a larger multicast like this one, this would work, because this needs to cast 6 of them. There's no way we have enough mana to pull that off. So we cast it. This is good. Now we're only using charges of the Plicate. The charge extension is working perfectly. This many Circle of Vigors, I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's a lot of extra heals. Obviously, Circle of Vigor is one of those that always gets people worked up because they're like, I never get Circle of Vigor. I've done 100 runs. I've never seen one. This is just an example. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen the black holes more often, so that's the thing to be more excited about. But I'm just saying, if you did find something like Circle of Vigor, the Circle of Vigor, you obviously Greek letter is the best because Greek letter would be infinite, but these can still work there too. We haven't even got to the OP part. Hold up, we're almost there. Again, let me just show the last little part here. If we were to go ahead and put it on a wand, that it does allow the black holes to run out. Oops, I did. So the reason it's not using the charges, we're not letting it. We weren't letting it recharge its mana fast enough. Like we were shooting it too quickly. But as you can see, we ran out of charges here. So if we want to fire this now, nothing. You have to have charges of the original spell to even begin to copy them. So the idea is, have at least one charge here, have a wand that can't cast all of them, that could vary depending on the size of the duplicate, and you're good. So I think for the most part, you probably got the concept there. And I just used the black hole and the Circle of Vigor as examples, but any spell with charges, these seem to get the job done. They will act as an extension. But let's get to the part that is OP. And this part I haven't actually utilized like at all in my runs, because I only found out pretty recently when I was telling Chad about saying, hey, I think I will do an Implicates video or a Plicates video where we talk about the different duplicates and how you could utilize it. And Latali, who's in the chat, was like, well, don't forget, it does work with the Matasade spell, and it does allow you to farm hearts. And I was like, oh crap, because usually add trigger, add timer, those are the things we've talked about in the past that allowed you to farm health. But with this information, this is actually kind of broken. So let me explain. So first off, the spell refresh does refresh charges of both the implicates, whatever you have, and obviously the black holes themselves. This, not shocking. I think most of you guys expected that. But one thing that you may not expect is that if you get the perk Unlimited Spells, it actually will turn the duplicate spells, so Unlimited Spells perk, into unlimited charges. So now it is actually like a Greek letter, and you could actually fire this infinitely. As long as you make sure that you have at least one charge of the initial black hole, you could fire off black holes forever. And that's pretty damn helpful. Still not to the broken part, the OP part. Let me show you the Matasade here. Matasade, if you don't know, it's got like a little bit of a history. Basically, when the devs added it, it's a spell that if it like deletes a whole zone around you, and worms will rain down, tons of worms. And if you guys know the way that worms normally work in Noita, the large worms, is whenever you kill them, there's a 50% chance that they'll drop a heart. Well, this became very OP very quickly when the devs added this, because you could just get a Greek letter, get Matasade, and then just summon in hundreds of worms and then just get tons of health. So they made it where the Matasade, the normal way you cast it, those worms actually will not drop hearts. The worms will rain down, you kill them, you'll never get a heart. But then there was like a trick where you could kind of mess with the spell, and instead of summoning in a ton of worms, it will actually summon in a single worm. And that was add trigger, add timer, those little add things. Those are the ones that made it happen. Well, actually, the implicate spells also will do that. That I was not aware of that. So let me go ahead and set up a method, a method to kill these worms. But watch what happens when I try to implicate the Matasade here. So I'm going to cast it. A single worm. And if you look at it, he dropped a heart. So this little guy here can drop a heart. And not only that, but you don't have to set it up in such a dangerous way. If you were to put it after a trigger, you could kind of just sit here and I'm using a freeze melee technique to insta-kill them, but obviously you may have like just a good wand with good damage. There's many different ways to kill these worms. It's up to you. But yes, they have a 50-50 chance. Coincidentally, they both dropped hearts here, but a 50-50 chance. So once you have unlimited spells, you could just sit here, and as long as you want, as long as you have a decent method to kill them, they're all dropping hearts right now. Guess I'm just got some good RNG. Oh my gosh, RNG is on my side right now. These 50-50s paying out. Oh, there's one that didn't drop it. But yeah, so you can farm infinite health. Now, again, if I didn't grab the unlimited spells perk, then yes, there would be a limited amount of charges, so I'd only get to farm like let's say it had 30 charges. So 30 charges on the Matasade spell, which would mean that each one, let's say a 50-50 chance, meaning we'd probably get like about 15 hearts. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like, if you're curious where you get the Matasade spell, this drops from the bridge boss 100% of the times that you kill him. Every time you kill the bridge boss, he will always drop this Matasade. So what you could do is anytime you actually come across one of these Plicates early, then you could just use the snowy depths, like that little side area, to go back over to the bridge boss, if you have a method to kill him, of course, just to guarantee this like setup where you could easily farm health. I think this is pretty OP, enough that maybe the devs, if they were to be doing active patching, that they would consider patching this, because I mean, you just saw in that little bit of time, we just shot it a couple times. Look at that, hearts for days. There's other strategies with this. There's lots to talk about, but I mean, I've already been ranting at you guys for over 15 minutes, so I don't want to bore you too much. I hope that I haven't been overwhelming you with Noita content, because that 100% run that I posted was like 11 hours long, even once I edited it. So I try to put off, you know, creating a video for a while, just because it's like, all right, these guys, I don't want them to get bored of watching Noita. But I also wanted to get back into posting YouTube content, because, you know, a lot of people in our community these days only watch on YouTube. So I want to make sure that you guys don't think you're left out, don't think that you're abandoned. So there's your quick look at the duplicate spells. Again, there's lots more to talk about with them. But I'm not going to go into that today in detail. If you guys end up, a lot of people check out the video, then maybe I'll do an extended version. But for the most part, this video covered the main points, enough that newer players, when they come across these spells, I think they're more likely to buy them and then maybe actually try to test them out. You know, because if we go to an extended version, it will just be discussing some of the strategies you could go about, maybe forcing your wand's mana pool to hit the criteria needed to always work to fire off the maximum amount of charges of like black holes or circle of vigor or whatever. But thanks for checking out the video. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be posting more videos soon. Always more Noita coming up. I just got done streaming a little while ago. I promised my chat that I'd post a video. They were angry with me because I didn't stream yesterday, because there was a Dota 2 patch. All right, there was an insane Dota 2 patch, and I had to play some Dota with my brother. So I was like, you know what, guys? I'm gonna take a day off streaming Noita. They were angry. They rioted. So I told them, all right, I'll post a video after stream, so that both you guys and the YouTube peeps and the Twitch peeps have a little bit more content to check out to make up for me taking the day off. But more content coming your way. Deuces, you guys.